Um, so, are you WWE? Are you sure you used the correct tagline for SummerSlam and not didn't accidentally swap it with NXT 30? Cause yeah, I definitely didn't see that coming. Yeah. NXT Takeover 30 just wrapped up. Like it just ended as I hit the record button, and yeah, let's talk about it. We definitely have some things to talk about when it comes to the main event, but let's get started on the pre-show, the triple threat tag team match. It was a pretty standard match in my opinion. Nothing really too special to talk about. The only things that are interesting to talk about is one. Thankfully, this match was wrestled under what I would call normal triple threat tag team match rules, which if you don't know, WWE has a habit of having these matches be two people in the ring and they can tag the opponents out, which is really stupid. I don't understand why that's a thing. Thankfully, here we have what I would consider a proper triple threat tag team match. One member from each team is legal at all times. Or basically, it's a triple threat match, but with tags. Why is that so difficult to do? Anywho, and the other talking point is the winner. I predicted Oney Lorcan and Danny Burch was going to win. But not only did they not win, they were the ones who took the pinfall. Only Lorcan was pinned after a supermodel kick by Tyler Breeze. So Breezango are the new number one contenders for the tag belts. Okay. I don't really think they're going to win though, but for all I know, they could. NXT isn't above surprising me, so we'll see. Anyway, then we go on to the show proper. We started off with Finn Balor versus Timothy Thatcher. As you might expect, considering Timothy Thatcher's style of wrestling, it was a very grapple-based mat wrestling kind of match. A lot of submission holds, a lot of mat wrestling from both parts. It was a decent match and all that. Only issue I have with it is I felt like Finn Balor didn't sell enough of the damage that was done to him by Timothy Thatcher. Now, I understand that Finn Balor ended was going to win this match, which he did, so a point for me there. But but I felt like it was a bit weird that he basically didn't sell much of the injuries. Like he didn't grasp a body part or limp or something like that after Timothy Thatcher worked several body parts, including the legs. There were some, but yeah, the match was decent. It was good. It was a good match, but again, I had some issues with the Finn Balor selling. Yeah, as I mentioned, Finn Balor won after a coup de grace into the 1916. So yeah, there you go. Next up, the fatal five-way ladder match. Sorry, I thought I heard someone. But anyway, as you might expect from a ladder match, it was very spot heavy. In fact, the match got off to a flying start. Actually, most of the matches tonight got off to a flying start. Like, as soon as the bell rang, Finn Balor attacked Timothy Thatcher. Before the bell rang, Damian Priest punched out the Velveteen Dream. I think Io Shirai jumped Dakota Kai, and I'm pretty sure Keith Lee jumped Karrion Kross before their match began. So there was a lot of explosive starts to every match. Yeah, as you might expect from a ladder match, there were a lot of high spots here and there. There were a lot of nice ladder shots here and there. Some cool high spots. A couple of ones I could talk about is there was a point where Cameron Grimes looked out of the match won, but then suddenly Candice LeRae appeared and stopped Cameron Grimes from winning, thus making her a part of the match to try and help Johnny win the match. But then at one point, I think it was Velveteen. I think Velveteen Dream got knocked down. No, Johnny. It was Johnny. Sorry, that makes more sense. We had Johnny Gargano and Bronson Reed on the ladder. Johnny got knocked down. Bronson tried to win, but then Candice ran up to try and stop him. Bronson then took the opportunity to do a tsunami splash from the ladder onto Johnny Gargano with Candice LeRae on his back. So that was a cool spot. There was one point where they had a bridge outside the ring. I think Damian Priest was knocked onto it, and Velveteen Dream did a Dream Valley driver with Cameron Grimes onto Damian Priest. So that was a cool one. And speaking of Velveteen Dream, he took one hell of a spot that took him out of the match. He was on top of the ladder, and I think Damian Priest pushed him off, tossed him off the ladder, and he flew over the barricade and through a table on the outside. Alright, so that was a cool spot. But in the end, it was down to Johnny and Cameron Grimes for a little bit, and then Johnny, I think, used the title belt to knock Cameron Grimes down. He was about to win when Damian Priest came up. The two of them struggled for the belt, even unhooked the belt for a little bit, but it didn't go off the hitch quite. They were just wrestling over it while it was still like the strap was, like it was unstrapped, but it was still on the clip on the tongue, for to put it that way. Anyway, ultimately Johnny lost grip. Priest pulled it down, and yeah, probably should have gone with Priest because he ended up winning. He's the new NXT North American champion. I was taking a bit of a risk to go with Cameron Grimes, so that didn't pay off. But oh well, I'm not complaining. Damian Priest is a good choice to be the new champion. It was a good match, so congratulations to you, Priest. Next up, we move into what is probably the most interesting, and probably one of the more interesting matches coming out of NXT Takeover 30. Adam Cole versus Pat McAfee. This match exceeded my expectations, which were pretty much my expectations were basically Pat McAfee was probably going to do some decent moves here and there, some basic moves, while Cole would carry the match. That wasn't really what happened. Pat McAfee was very athletic. Early on in the match, there was a big confrontation between his football crew, the rest of the Undisputed Era, and the security trying to break things up. And Pat McAfee got up to the top rope and did a swanton onto every single person there. So that was a cool moment. And then, and he pretty much held his own throughout most of the match. He did some decent counters with drop kicks and well-timed clotheslines. He kept on the back foot. And the best moment of the night for him, he had it was like him and Adam Cole were wrestling on the top rope. McAfee trying to do a superplex. Adam Cole fought back, knocked him off the turnbuckle, but he did a backflip onto the ring, and then immediately, in one jump, got back on the top rope and hit the superplex. That was a really cool moment. And then there was a pretty good near fall where, in a kerfuffle with the referee, Pat McAfee hit a low blow on Adam Cole, hit that punt kick to the face, but he only got a 2 count. I actually thought for a second Pat McAfee was actually going to win. But ultimately, Adam Cole was able to turn things around, hit. I think he super kicked him a couple of times. Then he was thinking about the last shot, but then decided instead to go up to the second rope, hit Panama Sunrise, 1, 2, 3. Adam Cole won. So I got that right as well. So yeah, I mean, there were certain points where I felt like he where McAfee kind of screwed things up. Like when Adam Cole went for the Oshigoroshi, or the fireman's carry onto the knee, as it's called. It's just Mauro Ranallo calls it Oshigoroshi, so that's what I refer to it as. He was a little bit out of position while he was hitting for it, and it barely grazed the knee as he fell, so that was a bit weak. And there were certain clotheslines he threw were a little bit weak, and certain way he was selling was slightly off. But sorry. But for a newbie, if that's what he is, I don't know for certain if he's had a match before or not. But from what I can tell in the storyline, for a newbie, this was pretty good. So, yeah, well done to Pat McAfee. Then we move on to the women's championship match, Io Shirai versus Dakota Kai. This match was basically very much based around Dakota Kai targeting. Early on in the match, there was a small bit of distraction from Raquel Gonzalez on the outside, which allowed Dakota Kai to hit some sort of move onto Io's left arm, and she proceeded to just target that throughout most of the match. But surprisingly enough, throughout most of the match, Raquel didn't get involved that much until the very end of the match. It was mostly Dakota Kai, and she did pretty well for herself. And of course, Io Shirai does well, but that's because Io Shirai is brilliant. But yeah, match was pretty good. Perhaps the armbar spot was a bit too long, but that's nitpicky, really. It was a fine match. At one point, though, as I mentioned, Raquel did get involved later on, because at one point the referee was in the corner, or Io was in the corner. I think she moved out of the way, the referee got in the corner, and Dakota Kai hit the referee with a kick. Io then hit a German suplex and hit her moonsault, but because the referee was out, she couldn't get the win. Raquel got in the ring, knocked out Io Shirai, hit her with that pump handle slam. The referee got into position. 1, 2, kick out by Io Shirai. Io then turned things around, knocked Dakota out of the ring, hit a moonsault onto both her and Gonzalez on the outside. Got Dakota back in the ring. Second moonsault. 1, 2, 3. Io Shirai retains. It was pretty obvious Io was going to win, but still, good effort by Dakota Kai. After the match, Raquel Gonzalez decided to attack Io Shirai for a little bit, until Rhea Ripley showed up, sporting, for some reason, black lipstick on her. That didn't look good in my opinion, but whatever. So it looks like they're setting things up for those two to have a match, maybe on NXT. Yeah, who knows for certain. And also towards the end, when Raquel and Dakota had left, Io was celebrating her victory. And we see Rhea in the background taking a look at holding an eye on Io Shirai. So that might be hinting at a future feud between the two of them. Who knows? Anyway, before we get to the main event, I do want to mention a couple of things about this show. Specifically some adverts that are aired during the show. Now, of course, you would think, what adverts? There's usually not any ads on a pay-per-view. Well, not traditional ads for other companies, but ads for future WWE events. And there were 3 things that caught my eye. 1, they aired a promo package for the Summerslam match between Braun Strowman and The Fiend. And I can't remember if this has been said on TV beforehand, but apparently they've announced now, but if this hasn't been mentioned before, they've apparently announced it now, Braun versus The Fiend is now a Falls Count Anywhere match. That was a bit out of nowhere. Why make it a Falls Count Anywhere match? Anyway, I guess that's what we're... I'll have to look into it before I do my prediction video later. Because, yes, if you didn't know, I'm doing SummerSlam weekend, so I'm doing SummerSlam tomorrow. Well, not tomorrow, it's already Sunday. Later on, but not right after this, because I really want to go to bed. I am tired as hell. The second thing was an advert for NXT UK, which is apparently going to start up on the 17th of September. Okay, cool. Hopefully with no fans in attendance, because I think the UK is one of the countries that are spiking right now with COVID. And people actually thought this pandemic would be over by the time we got to the summer. We're in August and things are looking worse. And every expert are telling us fall is going to be even worse than this. So prepare thyself. And finally, we had one more advert. And that is, Tommaso Ciampa hasn't been seen since he lost the Karrion Kross on NXT in Your House. He's apparently coming back this week. Cool. So yeah. Good to hear that Tommaso Ciampa's coming back. Decent to hear that UK is back. If of course depends on whether or not precautions are being taken. And as for Braun Strowman and The Fiend, well, I'll talk about that when I get to SummerSlam later. Anyway, let's finally move on to the main event. Keith Lee versus Karrion Kross for the NXT Championship. So, I have some issues with this match. Mainly, I feel like NXT made a little bit of a mistake in the placement of matches. You know how I mentioned that in the previous match you had Dakota Kai targeting. You had Io Shirai get her left arm hurt, and then Dakota Kai targeted it for most of the match. That's essentially what happened in this match too. Karrion Kross and Keith Lee were having a bit of a scuffle on the outside of the ring, and at one point Keith Lee got his arm stuck between the plexiglass and the barricade, and Karrion Kross kicked the barricade to injure Keith's left arm. Then he proceeded to focus on said arm for quite a bit, with several arm locks and arm bars, and he was focusing quite a bit on it. And I gotta tell you, it felt a bit repetitive to have 2 matches where the challenger was focusing on the left arm of the champion. And that was the primary source of the match. And I don't know, it just felt a bit weak to do that. Right. I was expecting some sort of explosive match between these two, considering the build-up, but no, it was a pretty technically savvy match. At least for the first part of the match. The match then started to pick up a little bit after that, with some big moves here and there, with some clotheslines and some side suplexes, and a big spirit bomb for a 2 count, and Karrion Kross locking in the cross jacket, and Keith Lee almost passing out but getting out of it. But then came the finish, and Well, I gotta tell you, I am not familiar with Karrion Kross's work outside of WWE. I am aware he was called Killer Kross on the outside, outside of WWE. I think he worked for Impact Wrestling, but that's all I know. I am not familiar with him in any way outside of WWE, and because I'm not familiar with him, I also don't know. Also, I'm not familiar with his moveset. The way NXT has been presenting him, I was under the impression that his finisher was the cross jacket. However, here's where the finish came. Karrion Kross and Keith Lee were fighting on the top rope, or around the top rope. And Karrion Kross was able to counter Keith Lee's offense. He was able to hit Keith Lee with a second rope side back suplex. I'm not entirely sure what to call that move. And it got him the 3 count. A side suplex from that second rope got Karrion Kross the victory, and he is now the new NXT champion. Granted, I did predict Karrion Kross was going to win. I got it right. But I never expected him to win like that. I pretty much thought he would maybe get Keith Lee to pass out in the cross jacket on a second attempt or something like that. But yeah, he just hit a second rope side suplex, and that's your lot. That's the end of it. Karrion Kross is the new NXT champion. There was no post-match angle. It was just Karrion and Scarlett celebrating. Karrion Kross is the new champ. There you go. I thought Karrion Kross was going to win, but I certainly didn't see the actual finish coming. So, yeah. So how would I overall say that the takeover was? I mean, it's a takeover. They usually are good, and I would say this is no different. If nothing else, the ladder match is really good. Pat McAfee versus Adam Cole is pretty good. And I would say the women's match is pretty good as well. Thatcher versus Finn Balor. I have some issues with it, but it's an overall good match. Lee versus Karrion Kross, though, is a bit uneven for me. Maybe it's fatigue because I was tired watching this match. I was looking forward to getting this over with so I could start the video. I really don't know for certain or maybe it was just not that good of a match. But something felt off about it to me. I wouldn't call it a bad match, but there was something off about it to me. Anyway, that's TakeOver 30. Probably not the best takeover I've ever seen. It was probably a little bit better than TakeOver in Your House, but that's not saying that much, because it's generally considered to be one of the weaker takeovers, because In Your House is considered to be one of the weaker takeovers. So, yeah, there you go. I don't really have much else to say about TakeOver 30. It's a good show. I would definitely check out the ladder match and Adam Cole versus Pat McAfee. And if you're a fan of Karrion Kross, well, he's the new champ. Let's see how things go from here. Anyway, that's all. I'll see you guys later for my predictions regarding SummerSlam 2020.